Hello and welcome to this box set on commercial property. By way of explanation, there are 6 different modules on this program, and you can deal with each of them individually, or you can binge them as a box set, which way you want to do it. And there are also accompanying notes, one set for each section. And the way I've split this up is that the first one is going to look at an overview of generally what is commercial property and how it differs from residential property. And the second one in the series is going to look at the formal process, which is very much like the residential conveyancing system if you're coming from that area, but it is just more complicated. And there are some things which you don't get with residential, for example. The third one is on planning and infrastructure agreements, looking at those mysterious Section 38 agreements and Section 104, and what your job is as the lawyer advising on planning, because there is an overlap with commercial property on the areas that are covered often by many other consultants that your client will be using, particularly if this is a piece of land that is going to be developed. And you have to realize that you are part of a team and that the buck doesn't stop with you for everything, and nor do you want it to. So we'll have a look at that. Moving on to that, the next section, number 4, in the module dealing with property development. Now, this is my particular favorite area, and I would say that it's probably the most interesting area of commercial property work that you can ever deal with. And probably because it's the most difficult and it's the most scary, and you meet all sorts of interesting characters, property developers who have incredibly bullish attitudes to everything. And you may find that you're acting for a lender who's lending to these people because they're often the lender is separately represented. And we look at options and conditional contracts and overage and land promotion agreements. The next area, which is episode 5, is commercial leases. Now, this is another area which is very much a specialist area. You might find that you choose to specialize in perhaps commercial leases, perhaps retail for one particular client, as opposed to dealing with general work or dealing with property development. Now, commercial leases are not standard, and they are often going to result in litigation either during the lease over whose fault something is, or at the end of the lease as to who's going to pay for the cost of repairs, which is known as dilapidations. So you do have to look through these very carefully, and we'll look at the key points on commercial leases. Then finally, we will look at taxes. And if there's anything you're going to take away from that section, it's that it is not stamp duty. And I tend to poke people in the eye when they say, oh, it's just stamp duty. Stamp duty land tax is probably one of the most complex property taxes in the world, I've heard it said. And probably as much as 4 out of 10 tax returns are wrong. I remember a finance director of a very important London PLC saying that 75% of the tax returns on the big value commercial leases that her expensive London lawyers did were calculated wrongly because they just saw it as the same as stamp duty and were just whizzing it through to try and get it registered.